My name is Candace Croucher Dugan. I'm born and raised in Alma, and I am honored to chair the Board of Trustees. Dr. Abernathy, 12 presidents have preceded you in the 125-year history of the college. These 12 presidents have established a great and grand tradition of leadership and service. The strength of our faculty, our students, our staff, and our entire region and community will provide all that is necessary to great accomplishment. This opportunity to jointly celebrate Dr. Abernathy's inauguration and the 125th anniversary of Alma College offers us each the opportunity to rededicate ourselves to the uncommon achievement that is our shared heritage. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, Dr. Abernathy, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I invest you with the office of the President of Alma College with all of the rights and responsibilities thereof. We are pleased to have with us today, and I am personally pleased to see again, Dr. Sandra Tracy, Alma College's 12th president. Dr. Tracy, will you please come forward with the Presidential Medallion?
The Presidential Medallion is the formal symbol of the office of the presidency. As it notes in your bulletin, it was presented to the college in 1980 by then-President Robert Swanson upon his retirement. It is indeed a very heavy medal. Jeff, wear it, recognizing the responsibility of the office and knowing that upon occasion, the responsibility will wear heavy upon your shoulders. Each link in the medallion represents one of the presidents, 12 in all, engraved with the names and the dates. Jeff, you add to this long legacy another link. Go forward with that leadership legacy. On behalf of the 12 presidents that precede you, I now present you with this formal symbol of leadership, integrity, and trust.
Dr. Abernathy, may you serve with distinction. Congratulations.
Thank you all very much for your generosity. To the Alma community, to Candace Dugan and the Board of Trustees, to college delegates and presidents gathered here, to our legislators who have joined us, to our amazing students who have been so astonishingly generous in their welcome of me. To all Scots who gather here today, welcome. Shall we all together thank our richly talented choirs, our pipers, and percussion ensemble for the joyful noise we have heard this day? And may we also thank President Sandra Tracy, who guided our college through every challenge in this past decade and whose leadership prepared Alma College for the journey of these next 125 years. Thank you, Dr. Tracy. Thanks as well to Mike Silverthorne, the Inauguration Committee, who have worked so very hard through the last months to organize this 125th anniversary celebration and the inauguration. Thanks as well to our colleagues in facilities and in dining services who have literally worked around the clock to make this week a success. I am honored beyond words to extend a welcome to you all that is merest shadow of the welcome I've experienced in these first 9 months at Alma College. I've had that time in those months to consider just what an unusual genre is the presidential inaugural address. I've read a lot of these things in the last couple of months. Let me tell you a couple of things that I have found. They are long, and no doubt, perhaps especially for listeners just like you, they can feel longer still. They contain, on average, 2,800 words, 16.4 learned allusions, including an average of 2 quotes of Shakespeare and 1 of Lincoln, 5 sentences with foreign words, 3 mixed metaphors, 2 long lists of great challenges or amazing paradoxes. Required to contribute to the genre, but wanting to offer up something perhaps less than traditional, I turned to the available research only to find, I know this is true, I found it on the internet, studies that show that 64% of faculty nationally would prefer watching paint dry in the library basement to listening to another of the president's speeches. Thus chastened, I would like to offer you this somewhat inaugural address. Inaugural in part because on this day we celebrate not the beginning of a presidency, I think, so much as the accomplishments of a great college in 125 years of its history. I hope thus you will indulge me in a jubilant celebration of Alma in this, our quasi-centennial, before we return to the joyful and terribly important work of being Alma. In these troubling times for our country and our world, the naysayers' voices resound with defeat, and pessimism is characteristic of the age. America's time has passed, we are told. The global political climate has become unsettled and violent. Our government lives beyond its means. Our public education system is incapable of competing effectively with, say, Romania's. Our state is in decline. Our fate is no longer in our hands. Despair is our one recourse. To all of which I say, these critics don't know the great tradition of the liberal arts, nor the great history of a college like Alma very well, do they? A liberal arts education has always been about changing community, bettering lives, solving problems. If the Greeks and Romans early on conceived of a liberal education as one of privilege, one for the free in those slave states, the Stoics, a group of philosophers in the 3rd century, changed this notion. As Martha Nussbaum writes, for the Stoics, a liberal education was specifically one that makes a person free. Free to speak one's mind in the public forum, free to engage in debate, free to represent the views of others and make one's case, free to solve society's problems and improve the lives of others. An Alma education has for 125 years been this type of liberal arts education, an education that at its heart prepares citizens to take on the most vexing of society's problems. The pessimists understand the problems we face. Indeed, they wallow in those problems on their way to writing best-selling laments. But one thing they don't acknowledge is that humanity is forever facing the greatest challenge it has ever known, and forever finding solutions in response. The thing the critics don't understand is the power of a few people willing to use their collective genius to create new solutions that transform lives, renew hope, build bonds, mend hearts, change minds, and shake worlds. But you knew this already. You knew it because you live it. The people of Alma College have shaped and changed lives for 125 years. The alumni of Alma have spread across the globe, carrying the spirit and temper of this place. The students of Alma now renew us all and inspire us every day. It's true, but we forget. In the day-to-day bustle of classes and grades and budgets, sometimes we lose sight of the amazing gifts of this place. One of those gifts has been the faith and optimism with which our college has always approached challenges. When Alma's second president, the Reverend August Brusky, rose to give his inaugural address, he was already aware of the grave challenges that face Alma. Indeed, the early years of his presidency were characterized by great obstacles and tumult: a college budget in arrears, a fire in the still nascent downtown, an economic downturn for state and nation alike. But in his charge for his audience on that June day in 1891, when Alma's first class was graduating, Alma's new president expressed the hope and optimism that would characterize his years at Alma. "You are still, but at the beginning," he said. Brusky's 21 years in this office would see the college transformed as enrollment and endowment grew, and the Jungle Grove and campus fair began to take the form that we know today. Alma, in his years, grew from a struggling startup, if you will, to a thriving college preparing men and women for leadership and service to community. Such faith in the future and optimism as we see in President Brusky have been the very hallmarks of Alma's 125 years, as they will be and must be for our next 125. Let me share two brief stories that give reason for all of us who love Alma to look at the years to come with that president's characteristic optimism. The first story demonstrates how a liberal arts college like Alma is uniquely situated to help bring resolution to the enormous challenges we face today. Many in the audience will know the long history of the Velsicol plant downriver in St. Louis. Velsicol, a prominent manufacturer of DDT and other chemicals, used the Pine River as a primary dumping site throughout the company's production on the river's banks, to the point that little aquatic life survived in a large stretch of that river for decades. Fish for many years literally dissolved from the inside out. What could little Alma College contribute to the problems for tens of thousands in the watershed of the Pine River, caused by a multi-billion-dollar corporation? Well, a great deal, as it turns out. Over the past 2 decades, Alma faculty and students joined a coalition of citizens from Gratiot County and beyond, forming one of the largest community advisory groups in the country. Alma College faculty provided expert testimony. Students from disciplines across the campus provided much-needed research and review of documents. Together with citizens from across mid-Michigan, Alma College faculty and students built a vision for restoring this community. Over 20 years, this work on the part of so many in our community resulted in hundreds of millions of dollars in settlements to accomplish that vision. And just last week, the City of St. Louis won a landmark $26.5 million judgment that will ensure a healthy water supply for that community for the years ahead. Such engagement with community has been at the heart of an Alma education since our earliest days. Next, let us consider the recent experience of 2 of our students, Bill McHenry and Holly Emke, who traveled to Muko, Uganda this past December. Villagers of Muko have little electricity and little prospect for changing the hardscrabble conditions of their lives. The village struggles still with the dual legacy of decades of a corrupt leadership in the national government and bitter civil war. Through their conviction that engaging with world markets can transform communities, our Alma students travel to Muko to help villagers there find markets for the crafts that they sell locally to eke out a living. Bill, Holly, and others talked with citizens of Muko to help them think about how their crafts might find an American market. They're working now to build on their vision so as to help that community find a path to self-sufficiency. Their efforts are part of a deliberate work by Alma faculty and students over 6 decades to reach out to communities across Africa, work that began in 1959 with the college's leadership of Books for Africa, a program that founded Central Africa's first lending library. Here I credit Kyla Whitus, who told me that story in a prayer this morning in chapel. And Kyla, I am grateful to you. In so doing, they have made a difference in a world, these faculty and these students. And Alma education has brought them to see the importance of not just making a living, but of making living better for others, and so changing the world. These efforts, both local and global, illustrate the fundamental importance of a liberal arts college education to community. Scholarship, stewardship, leadership grow at our college in large part because of our commitment to the growth of the whole person through our attention to the whole life. Knowledge, passion, and commitment grow here too, in our faculty and in our students, and it is an essential opportunity to ensure that Alma will continue to serve and lead community for the next 125 years. Well, when this jubilant celebration of our 125 years is done, when the last of the punch is consumed and the whole thing is mashed up on YouTube, I suppose, we together will return to the work of being Alma. You, far, far more than I, have defined what it means to be Alma College and why we take such pride in a simple claim. We are Alma. From these stories, I have learned much of Alma, but principally they illustrate two central values that I've learned from you about who we are. You have said, first, we are members of this community, in it and not above it. Though poetic and powerful, John Winthrop's vision of a city upon a hill is not a call that resonates in this community. We at Alma carry on the very best of the liberal arts tradition in our commitment to serving communities across the globe. If we are to thrive, we must build on our ability to engage the world and its problems. We must demonstrate to a public that knows too little of the value of an Alma education that value lies in part with that engagement out in the world. Thus, we must continue to find ways in which we can make Alma, Michigan, Gratiot County, and the state of Michigan spaces for learning with a dual context of academic and local culture as our guides. Let us ensure that students are deeply engaged with their communities and their environment. Let us ensure as well that students serve this community in their time here, that, in the words of the environmental writer Wes Jackson, they act as if they were indeed native to this place. So must we all. Second, you have said as well that an Alma education engages our students with this world, the world beyond mid-Michigan. If at our best we have always acted as if we are natives to this place, we have also ensured that an Alma education is about preparing global citizens. This year we send out any number of graduates who have changed communities across the globe in their time here. That same Kyla Whiteus, who in her time here went to Juarez, Mexico, and went to El Paso, Texas, and she became to see those places as deeply intertwined with her own identity, as she would tell you, spending months in those communities, building a vision for their betterment. If we are natives of this place, we are also natives of the world. It is a fraught and fragile globe upon which we live. The German philosopher Theodor Adorno wrote that it is a part of morality not to be at home in one's home. For Adorno, a sense of exile in the world enables human beings to see injustice and address it in all places. We at Alma College must continue to find ways for our students to take on the world's problems as their own, as so many of our students have done through 125 years, guided by their faculty. In the years to come, we know we must build on these and other values that we have always held. But we know, too, that we cannot be satisfied with simply being what we have been. I am suggesting that our greatest opportunity, perhaps, is to reimagine what the liberal arts college can be for our society and for our world. What must such a reimagining entail? Well, among the things I think we will need to pursue, we must be better stewards of our resources, creating a more sustainable community, respectful of the environment and connected to local farmers, tradesmen, and businesses. We must better reflect America's rapidly evolving diversity. Like other great liberal arts colleges, we must reach farther afield for our next generation of students. We must bring the world to our campus and ensure that our students have opportunities to learn through their engagement with that world. We must as well recommit to citizenship as the foundation of an Alma education and model citizenship by addressing the real problems of our state, our nation, and the globe. We must partner deeply with the off-campus community, extending our resources to help Alma, Gratiot, and Michigan thrive. And in doing all of these things, we must seek to engage the world in the great story of Alma College. If we are to achieve these goals, we will need to go about our work differently than we have. We will, each of us in this community, need to take on an entrepreneurial spirit that is perhaps not the hallmark of the Academy. We must become an institution for a new century of challenges and opportunities, a dynamic model of the habits and practices upon which a sustainable and compassionate community depends. We have the opportunity to be the community that we are preparing our graduates to help create. when they leave us. We will do these things because we must do them if we want an Alma education to be, for our students of the next 125 years, what it has been for students of the last 125. An opportunity to change life, to find new passions, to transform in these 4 years and discover altogether new priorities in life and new loves. Just yesterday, an alumnus of ours, Patrick McDonough, who is here today, sent a note reminding me of the words of Theodore Roosevelt. The best prize that life offers is the chance to work hard at work worth doing. We have the opportunity for that prize every day at Alma College. Let me close with a personal story that will be familiar to some in this room. It's a story that reminds me of the nature of our work at liberal arts colleges. Some years ago, I spent 5 weeks in Nigeria. I spent that time with one who is among us today, John Power, representing Illinois College. 1 week, I was staying with friends in the northern city of Zaria. That Sunday, these friends, Davis and Eunice Kitchener, took me to their church, St. Bartholomew's. The church itself remains for me the strongest image from a month in West Africa, or those 5 weeks in West Africa. The northernmost Christian church, when it was built in 1929, it is constructed almost entirely of mud and stands in a bare clay yard so that it appears to have risen up out of the very ground. That morning, a red flame of the forest tree bloomed full against the orange mud of the church's walls. After the service, which had been translated for me from the local Hausa, the trading language, my hosts and I sat outside with others in the bright sun and enjoyed the agusi soup and pounded yam that are the staples of that part of the world. After we ate, younger men got up from the tables and changed into work clothes to begin the process of bolstering the church's walls with a new application of mud drawn from a field next to the church. In moments, these parishioners were standing on great long ladders carrying buckets of mud, leaning against the church walls to do their work. Dipping their hands into the buckets of this warm, wet earth, the men painstakingly spackled the walls, the work of their hands countering that of the rains, which every spring strive to reduce the structure to the soil from which it was raised. My host told me that with each passing year, the appearance of the church changes, that it is more clay, there is more clay in the mud one year, say, or one wall is raised slightly higher at the hands of an eager worker. The church, we might say, is in a constant state of becoming. This process, this ritual renewal of the church's walls, its roof, its cornices, and beams at the hands of its parishioners suggested to me just what it means to be a member of a community grounded in faith and built on ideas. In the face of all of our human doubt and uncertainty, we commit again and again to the seen and unseen ties that bind us. The ongoing toil involved in restoring St. Bartholomew's, like faith itself, surpasses reason, all the more so since modern building materials are, after all, available in Nigeria. And yet this ancient work continues. For my hosts, for me, it reflects the grace of God in our lives, and it asserts the necessity of the communal to the presence of the divine. The stewardship and renewal of community, especially a community like Alma, founded on an idea, requires the same vigilant attention as does that mud church in the middle of Nigeria. At liberal arts colleges like ours, we are ever in an inchoate state, ever becoming. It is a part of our identity to be always emerging. At Alma, we debate the nature of our being constantly. It's a part of who we are to engage in a conversation about who we are. And that, to me, is a part of the excitement of this moment for our college. But our job, when we take off these robes, is to put on our work clothes, to get our hands dirty, to engage again in the ongoing commitment of this place, to build an institution, always changing according to the touch of those who are its stewards, always adapting to the mix of mud and the opportunity the local environment provides, always preparing for the storms that will annually come, but always true to its core mission of transforming lives, a mission that has been our heritage for 125 years. I am so deeply glad to be here. I am honored by your confidence in me and by your welcome. You are remarkable people, Ours is a remarkable college. Your creativity, your aspirations inspire me, and your compassion, your brilliance, your creativity, and your hard work will ensure that in the years to come, we meet these aspirations and much more. Though our college is 125 years old, I can, like August Brusky, say with good reason this day that we are still but at the beginning. Great things will come for Alma College in the years ahead if we work together to achieve them with all our passion and compassion, all our love and devotion. And so let me end and release you from the chore of listening to me talk about Alma so that you may go out to rejoin the challenge and joy of being Alma. Thank you very much.